Hey guys, I'm back. This is David with pbice.com and I'm here with BMO tonight, hanging out. Oops. Yeah, BMO. And we're going to do our answer portion of our Q&As since it would be a perfect time tonight to do it since it's nice and quiet. I guess we could start first with Daniel Rogers, and he asks, have you been using the Metricide, and are there any chemicals in it that are harmful for your plants and fish? That's a good question. Metricide is it's a disinfecting agent that they use in hospitals to sterilize surgical equipment. Metricide, Sidex, and there's a few other ones, but they're all basically the same thing. It's just different names. And what they're used for in aquariums is as an alternative carbon source. Some people like to say liquid CO2, which doesn't really, it's not really accurate, but basically this stuff breaks down for carbon to make available for plants. And Excel, Flourish Excel is the same basic thing as far as like the active ingredient is the same, which is called glutaraldehyde. And all of these products have glutaraldehyde, as does Flourish Excel. These Metricide and Sidex and these other ones are on the side, I think. They're a little bit more concentrated. Like a lot of them are like, I think it's 3.4% or something, compared to Excel being like 1.5, I believe. I'm shooting that off the top of my head. I'm not 100%. So just look into that. As far as it being harmful to plants and fish, dose normally. No, it's not harmful to plants and fish as long as you dose it in the same way you would dose Excel, like according to their directions. It does, however, affect usually valves and sometimes crypts. Like it has the ability to melt them. Anacris is another one that it could melt, possibly. So, but I mean, a lot of people report using it with valves and not having any issues, and I've done the same. So, it's just something you got to kind of mess with. But most of your more advanced plants don't have an issue with it. It's just the more primitive type plants. It has something to do with the cell walls or something. Not, I don't know. They just don't react to it very well. But 95% of your plants are going to be fine with it. Every fish I've ever had has been fine with it. Some shrimp can be a little bit picky about it, but as long as you're not overdosing, you're fine. So it's fine. Moving on. Daniel Dickens says, why is someone shooting a gun in the window to the left at 33 seconds? We'll touch on that later since we've had a lot of people asking that. Eric Pate, how do you bring out the red in plants? That's a good question. One of the main go-tos that people usually say is they say, oh, well, you need to add iron to bring out the red, since I think maybe because iron turns into rust and rust is red. It is true that plants do need iron, and some people believe like that is kind of like in between. It's not really a micronutrient as much as it is like kind of in between micro and macro, because they do need a certain level of iron. But too much iron is actually bad. It can actually stunt plant growth, and that said, you don't want to overdo it with the iron. And I mean, what actually brings out the red on the tops of plants is the lighting. Having an intense light really does it, because the red is a defense response from the plant, basically saying, "Oh, I need more shade." Let's, you know. So it's not a bad thing. I mean, but you know, that's basically what that's about. So your iron is important, but more importantly, have adequate light. You know, and make the plant, you know, have a reason to respond with red. Let's see, Bevaholic. What is your favorite plant? My favorite plant right now would have to be the red tiger lotus, and that's because it's been really popular. A lot of people have been ordering them. I've been messing with them a lot, and I absolutely love the colors on them. And I'm sure you probably noticed, but they've got this nice range of red colors up to like an orangish color, some greens, and then the undersides of the lily pads are like a bright purple. So they're just a fantastic plant do good in most lighting situations. If you trim the tops of them, like any long stems, then they'll stay compact and they make a really great centerpiece. And most people, I mean, they're really stunning if you walk by and see a really full, bushy tiger lotus plant. So they're awesome. What is my favorite aquascape? Asked Daniel Dickin. That would be, I really like the first one that comes to mind is the Avatar 3D aquascape. And if you haven't seen it, go to YouTube and just type in Avatar aquascape, and it's awesome. I mean, it's got sand waterfall background, so it looks like real, like real water coming down. It's got floating islands with the moss on them and everything, and it's amazing. It's a really beautiful setup. Daniel Dickin also asks, how did you get into aquariums? I've been keeping aquariums probably for the last 20 years. I'm telling my age now. But yeah, ever since I was probably 10-ish or so, I can remember having a fish tank. I started out with a 10-gallon, I think, like most people did. And I remember vividly that we had a 20-gallon long tank that I put a blue gourami in and a bunch of other things that probably didn't really belong in a 20-gallon tank. And back then, I mean, there was really no internet or no other way to really find out any better. So, but yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I used to love doing it. And I didn't really get into real serious fish keeping until about 5 or so years ago. Me and my dad talked about setting up a fish breeding aquarium, selling type business thing, and we started to work on it. And then he passed unexpectedly. So they kind of put a damper on everything, and it kind of put a hold on that. But I continued it on, and I've tried a couple different things. We've done, I did some breeding and some stuff like that, and have done several different things with with fish food and stuff like that. And it all was pretty good, but I think that eventually I just settled in on plants, and I really like doing the plant thing. Like it works out really well with me and my schedule and everything else. So that's kind of what I've stuck on. I plan to expand that, eventually, and probably once we get all of our plant stock in and all of that, then I'll probably move on to native fish. Because eventually I would like to offer up native fish that are found here in Florida, because they're really there's a lot of really cool aquarium friendly fish that most people don't know about. So that's that. Absolute Angel 85. How do you catch a fish in a community when you need to? If BMO would stop biting my ear. That can be really tricky if you've ever had a heavily planted tank with a stubborn fish. One of the worst ones probably would be like the Siamese algae eater. That thing is the worst. Like they're fast. They are very, very timid. They dart around. And they're just horrible to catch. If you've ever had to catch one, you know what I'm talking about. But the best way that I've found is to lower the water level, so it really limits their area of movement. And I always use 2 nets if it's sort of difficult. And I use one really big net and then one really small net, and I kind of use the small net to guide the fish into the big net. Another thing that can help sometimes is to use a terracotta pot, because a lot of fish will take cover in the pot, and as soon as they take cover, and just scoop the whole pot out, and there you go. So hopefully that works out for you. Krista asks, why did you choose Peabody to base your business around? That's a good question. It's actually was done on a whim. Like, we were on our way back from a little town north of Panama City Beach called Southport, and we just picked up 2 new rabbits. We went there for Ruby, which she's the little floppy loppy rabbit. And while we were there, we got talked into buying another rabbit, and the little Dutch, blue Dutch rabbit, and his name was Peabody. So we named him Peabody, and then we were talking about what we're going to name our plant business, and the name Peabody's Paradise just stuck, and that was it. So that's really all there was to it. There's not a whole lot of thought behind it, but that's what we got. So that's that. Lily asks, who is the best dog in the world? That would be Skippy John, our little. She's not really that little, but she's a black lab border collie mix, and she is an awesome dog. She's named after a cat, but she's a really smart dog. She's great. So that's SG. Shizdank asks, what is the ETA on the new substrate? If you guys have been following, I've talked a little bit about our substrate that we're doing. It's basically a mineralized organic soil that we are adding rabbit compost in, and then also adding some amendments that help make a very well-rounded soil. All the micros in it. Actually, some fungus that's supposed to help also with and I mean it's a really nice it's a nice recipe that we've got going. So we have a lot of good luck with it, and we really like it. So we decided to share it. As far as when it'll be ready, it's pretty much ready now, but I just haven't I haven't gone through the process of, and it's a lot of back-breaking work, but I haven't gone through the process of screening the soil and bagging it up so it's ready to go when people order it. And that's the only thing holding me up. I've just been preoccupied. But soon, I'll give you that. I'm not going to set a date on it, but soon, I'll give you that. I'm not going to set a date on it, but probably when whoever's trying it out, you guys just let me know how things go. But you know, vegetative growth is vegetative, so. Alright, what next? J Flesh, fired up fish tanks. Pelia, question mark. I'm guessing that he's asking about Pelia because I know he asked a few weeks ago if we were going to start carrying Pelia, and we don't have any right now, at least not for sale. And as to when we'll have it, it just depends. Like on our list, I believe that it's labeled on our list as it's called a monoselenium, something to that extent. And I believe that is Pelia. You know, I'm gonna have to dig into that a little bit more, but it seems to be pretty much the same thing, if not the same thing. But it's been out of stock, you know. So, and I think what it is, a lot of the stuff is seasonal, so it comes and goes. But it is on there, so hopefully it will become available. And as soon as it does, I'll let you know. And we'll definitely get some either way because we like to stock that kind of stuff because people love the ground covers and we like them also. Let's see. DRNet says, add me. Okay, that guy obviously did not watch the video or read the description or anything else, so consider yourself added. Let's see. Rebecca asks, when it comes down to setting up a dirted tank, what are some other stuff you can add in place of standard potting soil? I mean, it's really up to you. It's, you know, the whole purpose is to have a nutrient-rich base for the plants to grow in. And I mean, we prefer using it. You can use garden soil or potting soil because there's more control, and you really don't want to overdo it. Like with compost, you have to be really careful because, you know, manure and all that stuff has cow manure, steer manure, horse manure, all that stuff has a really high nitrogen content in it, and you really don't know what it's doing as far as that goes. So you don't want to go crazy with it in a contained environment like your fish tank. We do use rabbit compost, rabbit manure, but it's to gardeners it's really considered a cold compost, and which basically just it's like a cold fertilizer, which they say that because it doesn't burn the plants. Like the nitrogen content is actually really low because rabbits, I guess their diet or whatever, the way they process it, it doesn't end up being really high in nitrogen. But so it's a good safe fertilizer, so to speak. As far as, you know, what else you could use, I mean, you can use anything from, you know, different compost or whatever to you can just go down to your creek and in a bend in the creek just dig up some of the silt that's piled up in the corner, and that stuff is really high in you know, in your micros and stuff. I mean, you probably won't have a ton of macros in it, but you know, it does have a lot of micros. I mean, another thing forest floor is awesome, but you know, it's a big unknown. Like, it's a big unknown when you're taking stuff from nature, because you really don't know, if there's anything that's been sprayed on it. You don't, and you're kind of just, it's a big gamble. Plus, there's a whole lot of different bugs and stuff that are in these places, primarily in the aquatic. There's all kinds of different things that you really might not want to put in your tank. So that's that. I think we got everything. Oh, the thing in the background on the Q&A video is a fuel truck. It's a jet fuel truck, and the amber light is just like an operation light. So anytime the truck's on, the light's flashing. So that's what that is. Nothing magical. It's not a UFO. It's not a police car. Police cars don't have amber lights here anyway. They've got real blue lights, just like any other police car. And that's pretty much it. Thanks for your questions, and hopefully I answered them, to your satisfaction. If you guys have any other questions or whatever, just, ask away, and I'll save them for the next time, and we'll go from there. So I had fun, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks for your time. Out.